Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. Keith, how's it going?
I'm amazed that you found your way in.
Do you know, I've been here, for everyone watching at home, I've been here for a good couple of hours. He's not said a word about that. You sit in the chair and he gets you.
And you've brought a sample, I see.
Mountain Dew.
Is that what you call it?
Other soft drinks are available. We're also joined by Record Sports' Fraser Wilson. Fraser, how's it going?
Very well, mate. What have I missed? This is all news to me.
No.
Well, Daniel coming into his work, yeah, it's new to me as well.
Listen, I'm a child of the COVID era.
Aye.
That's all I'm saying. No, actually, I like being in the studio, but you forget how warm it is.
It is hot, it's particularly hot.
It doubles as a sauna at the weekend.
Yeah.
Fraser, it's good to have you on. I think you're maybe the best man to start tonight's show because you were at Hampden at the weekend for Hearts Aberdeen, and it's a game that, well, the ramifications from just aren't going away.
Seems a long time ago now, that game, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
Right. It rumbles on and on and on thanks to that perhaps surprise statement with Tynecastle yesterday. I've got my own thoughts on it, but Hearts fans will be far more interested to know that there's a pretty explosive column coming in tomorrow's paper from an ex-player, somebody that served the club twice, our very own Ryan Stevenson, who's never one to mince his words, Ryan, and he's come down pretty hard on that statement. Obviously can't give too much away, you'll have to wait till the paper comes out tomorrow. But fair to say he's not too enamoured with what Hearts have done with this statement.
What did you make of the statement, Frizz?
Well, these are my own thoughts because I don't agree with everything Ryan says. He speaks a lot of sense and he certainly makes his point strongly and forcibly. But
There's smoke coming off that column, isn't there?
It certainly is, but that'll do the job itself tomorrow. My own thoughts are it was unnecessary, the column, and I think like most people, it smacks of a deflection tactic. Maybe playing to the gallery like clubs like to do these days. I don't know if it's because of the social media era or what, but they feel they need to be seen to be doing something by to be the voice of supporters who are maybe irked by refereeing decisions. I thought it was wholly unnecessary. I don't actually agree with them on the decisions on Saturday. I tend to back John Beaton more in that aspect. I thought both red cards were probably right.
Even the Cammy Devlin one, Fraser?
Well, this is the thing. Only under the letter of the law at the moment, because I think the law is all wrong. Cammy Devlin, I feel so sorry for. He doesn't even know who was it, Dante Polvara's coming in off his blind side. Any player that doesn't try and clear that ball isn't worth a place on the park. All Cammy Devlin is trying to do is clear that ball, and out of nowhere comes a leg to Dante Polvara, and he catches it. No, it's a foul every day of the week, but not every foul has to be a yellow card, especially when it's a second yellow card. But unfortunately, see those given as bookings all over the country, all over the footballing world these days. It's just the kind of footballing world we live in now that it doesn't take much to warrant a yellow card. And John Beaton's probably right in that one, and it's left Hearts up with a mountain to climb with 9 men, and unfortunately, it's directly led to Aberdeen's winning goal.
I'm just wondering, Fraser, if there might have been a bit of the totting up process with Cammy Devlin as well, because he tends to walk in a bit of a tightrope, doesn't he? In most matches, he's kind of stick on for
likes a tackle
for a booking, and then after that, you've got your heart in your mouth, if you pardon the pun, because he doesn't kind of temper his game down in any way, even when he's on a booking. I wonder if there was an element of totting up on it. I don't think the incident itself is worthy of a booking. But that said, all Hearts were really doing at that point was clinging on. The first red card was a spot-on decision. There was no complaints about it. And Hearts, Neil Critchley made changes at half-time, which was all about containment and just trying to take the thing to penalty kicks. Now, he was unlucky. He came in a couple of minutes of it, but there's only so much luck you can ride out. I don't think Aberdeen were great. I don't think it was a great contest, a spectacular semi-final in any manner of means. But I think the Aberdeen were just about worthy winners, even though they weren't particularly good either.
Yeah.
But for Hearts to put out this statement, which there was loads of words in it, but it said next to nothing other than "please be assured we'll be speaking to people." Well, what are you saying? What exactly was that?
I think
There's so many holes in it.
See, if you're a Hearts fan as well, after
mentality.
the awful season that they've had, Hearts, you're a Hearts fan, you're sitting at home, and the Hearts come out, they're demanding answers. Right, that's brilliant, but I mean, look at the season we've had. I mean, look at all the things that has gone wrong. I mean, to turn around, I just thought it was a bit richer, I think is what I'm trying to say.
I think it backfired. Fraser, you might know better than me, but I think it backfired because I think the initial response from a great deal of Hearts fans were, well, that's great. What are you doing about Neil Critchley?
Aye, that's what I'm trying. You said it more articulately.
Fraz, is that the general mood? Hearts have got bigger problems.
Yeah, going by the few Hearts fans I know, I don't totally agree with them, and certainly on social media. But those that shout loudest aren't always the ones worth listening to. You know, see the part of the statement that says public silence on our part should not be mistaken for inaction. That clearly says the whole point of this statement is just to appease their fans. You know that this has been written to try and get the fans off their back, but as you say, it has maybe backfired because the fans weren't gunning for the referees and the officials. They're gunning for the hierarchy and for Neil Critchley. Now, I think Neil Critchley has come in and has improved Hearts. Yes, they blew a great chance to get in the top 6, and that is on his shoulders. But coming in with 2 points from the first 8 league games and then taking 38 from the next 25, you can't say he's not improved them. He got them in a position to get in the top 6 and then blew it. But I think he deserves another summer window to really make the team his own and prove that this was kind of that he's a man to take them forward and prove this was a kind of aberration this season.
I'm with you, Fraz. What I'd say is, I think you need to let the season see itself out. Hearts will get 5 games to go.
Yeah.
Now, if Neil Critchley, who can't seem to win a game that he needs to win, if he gets beat by Dundee in the first post-split fixture, Hearts are in trouble. If he beats Dundee and does get that monkey off his back and gets a win that matters, and even a lot of Hearts fans will argue it's bottom 6, it doesn't matter, but it does. If he gets the 3 points, Hearts can put the flip-flops on. That's them, they're safe. But if he loses at home to Dundee at the weekend, and I think that's going to be a right difficult match for them. And if Dundee can find a way of winning it, then I think Hearts are a real issue. And at that point, once you get to the end of the season, if Critchley has clung on to survival by the skin of his teeth, or worse, then how can you say, yep, he deserves to go again? I have said that I think it's probably fairness for him to get a shot at the money, a look at the computer and the algorithms and the data, and let's see what Hearts, his imprint on the Hearts squad would look like at the start of next season. But I will caveat that by saying I'm not sure that you can make a judgment call on this while you still have these 5 games remaining. I'm not sure yet, and I keep saying it, that Hearts are as safe as some people seem to think that they are right now.
What do you think, Fraser?
Did you know it's really interesting? And by the way, Neil Critchley was the first arrival from Jamestown Analytics.
Yeah,
that tool. That tool was what brought Neil Critchley's name to the table. So if he was to fail, then Jamestown Analytics has failed in its first signing. But what's kind of uncanny is the parallels with what happened to Hibs last season. The Hearts fans won't like that. But Hibs went to Motherwell on the last day before the split, needing a win to secure their top 6 spot. Only drew and dropped into the bottom 6. At that stage, they said they were standing by Nick Montgomery. Nick Montgomery, who'd come in, having not started the season, taken over and lifted them from the bottom of the table. But having been given the last 5 games and the board that Hibs standing by him, then got hammered by Aberdeen Easter Road. And as you've maybe alluded to there, kind of the walls caved in on him. And they bowed to the pressure and they sacked him before the end of the season. So if ever there's a warning that these 5 games do matter, that's it. I don't think Hearts are in trouble. I think it's almost mathematically impossible for all the teams below them to get the results required without beating each other to catch Hearts, all of them to catch Hearts. So I think they're more or less safe, but that account for nothing if they start losing a couple of these games. with you 100% on the need to go out and make a statement at Tynecastle against Dundee. They need to go and win all 5 of those games because it's Hearts are the biggest club in that bottom 6. And even then, that will count for nothing after a season that's delivered 0 for Hearts. It promised a lot and delivered absolute 0. So go and win those 5 games, get a wee bit of momentum under their belts, and that's all it will do.
We've got a few comments coming in on the situation, not only the game at the weekend, but the situation at Hearts. Neil Renton, who's a resident Hibby, says, I had to check that it wasn't 1st of April when I read Hearts' statement. Maybe they should print out loads of the statement and use it to paper over the cracks at Tiny. Your pal, Keith, or our pal, Raleigh, Gianni, still not met him though, says, if Critchley was sacked, would Tony Dock, Robinson or McInnes be considered, or do they not fit the Brighton model? And I think that's a fair point, I think, in the sense that if you're Tony Bloom or whoever the money men are, talking about 10 million, putting huge money into Hearts, again, it's just my opinion, but can you really see it being Neil Critchley, the man that leads it forward? Right now, I can't. I don't see enough evidence for it.
But the computer said yes in the first place,
aye,
as Fraser said. So they have faith in this. They have faith in the system and the programming. So I would expect that they'll stand by it. To
what point, though?
Well, I think, as I said to you, beat Dundee at the weekend, you're safe. And then you start planning for next season. That would be my approach to it. And then you're just going to have to go on a game-by-game basis. Because if he loses to Dundee, he's taking another batter into his credibility. Dundee move up to only 3 points. I know that Fraser's saying it's unlikely. It's highly unlikely that Hearts can get dragged in, but there is a scenario whereby I think it would need a Kilmarnock win. Do you know what? I can't even.
There's so many permutations that box 6.
There is a set of circumstances over the first 2 weekends where if a series of results go against Hearts, everybody gets really, really close to them with 3 games to go.
Oh, definitely. Aye. They can still get dragged into that
I
conversation.
think if St Johnstone lose everything, right, that's one of the scenarios. If everybody beats St Johnstone and take maximum points from these games, St Johnstone get kind of isolated, which they kind of already are around at the bottom of the table. But there is a scenario whereby it's not cut and dried yet for Hearts. But that's what I'm saying. Beat Dundee, it's that you've kind of defused that potential atom bomb. Fail to beat Dundee or get beaten by Dundee, and you've got a problem.
What's your thought? Do you think they will?
And then that's interesting. What Gianni's asking there is he's basically saying, there are candidates on their own doorstep who would look the most likely option, but if the computer doesn't fancy these people, and you kind of look at the appointment at Critchley, and it would give you reason to believe that they'll look elsewhere. Derek McInnes, people would look at him and say, he's exactly what Hearts need, a guy that can be trusted. Not had a good season at all at Kilmarnock this year, but you look at his back catalogue, he's a guy that knows the league inside out, is used to having teams at the right end of the table, not the wrong end. But I just don't know if the algorithms would
match up,
would take Hearts in that direction or take them down some other route. I strongly suspect it would be some other route.
Me too. But 1967 in the comments says Tony Dock and McInnes are fighting relegation. Why would Hearts want them? Interestingly, Tommy says sacking Critchley would be the biggest mistake Hearts could ever make. And Mark Fairfield says Robinson, or how about the man strolling the championship? Amazing he hasn't been given a chance in the SPFL. It's funny he says that because Robbie Copeland, who works for Online Record Sport, he's a massive Falkirk fan. And after the result of the weekend, they get beat 3-1 at home to Race Rovers, he's panicking. So I don't know about strolling the championship. It's an interesting debate. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks with Hearts.
I think, and it's quite interesting, Fraser and I were both doing a thing today. It was William Hill had like a media day for ahead of the post-split fixtures, and we're speaking to players from 8 different clubs, and no matter what way you look at it, the bottom 6 is where the stories are going to come from.
Yeah,
and Hearts, I don't think their chapter's finished yet. So, do
you think they'll beat Dundee at the weekend?
I don't. I fancy Dundee to go there and win, to be perfectly honest with you.
What do you think, Fraser? Do you think Hearts will get the points?
I've covered that many games at Tynecastle where the pressure's been on and they've bottled it this season. I fear for them. If they get the first goal, fine. But what I really worry about is it looked like Lawrence Shankland on Saturday's maybe kicked his last ball for Hearts. I don't care what anyone says. He's still their go-to man if you want a goal. I don't care what anyone says about his return this season. He proved it again at the weekend. He looked really, really hurt when he came off. They're just made it off the park and no more without their stretcher. And Dundee, looking at their results this season, they score a lot and concede a lot, so you basically have to outscore them. So if Hearts don't have their front men firing at the weekend, I fear for them a wee bit, I have to admit.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because I spoke to Big Simon Murray today from Dundee, your big pal.
Ex-pal.
Scotland player in waiting. I spoke to him, and there's something about him where there's a bit of a swagger, some genuine sort of self-belief levels. You just think, you're happy, you're what? I think he's really relishing the prospect of going there now. If Hearts are minus their talisman, well, that's what I'm saying. If Hearts are minus their talisman and best goal scorer, he's gone into this on fire, and in a really, really good place. And by the way, I think he is looking towards the end of the season, and the Scotland squad that we picked, the last Scotland squad, I think it's in June. Who is it?
Liechtenstein
away, and is it Finland?
Finland, I think.
Hampden. That squad is going to be a shadow Scotland squad. Right? Just put the kettle on for that, right? Because even I was talking the other night about how Billy Gilmore and Scott McTominay, they just love playing football. That might be one too far. But at the end of a long, arduous season of Serie A, I think we'll be looking at a very unfamiliar looking Scotland squad for that. And you never know. If Simon Murray continues to bang them in, and I think he thinks that, and I think he thinks he's in with a chance, so he'll be busting a gut to make an impact.
Aye, absolutely.
And for that reason, as Fraser said, Dundee have been scoring goals. Scoring goals has not been a problem for Dundee this season. Keeping them out's been a bit of an issue.
Aye.
But yeah, I actually really fancy them to go and get a result at Tynecastle, and then things are going to get interesting.
Aye. Rebel reminds us it's Iceland, the other friendly. Sorry, Fraser, go on.
Your pal Simon Murray, he scored 23 or 24 goals for Ross County last season.
Aye, 23 it was, aye.
He's on course for that, if not better, this season with Dundee. It's incredible. These are men creating chance upon chance upon chance. And I tell you what, there's one player in the Premiership that just brings a smile to my face the way he plays the game, especially the way he celebrates goals. It's Simon Murray.
Yeah.
He's just full of enthusiasm. Love it. And I would not be against seeing him in a Scotland squad. Probably deserves a cap for the career he's had.
He stood us up on the Hotline Live a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
well, no chance. Does he deserve a Scotland?
Exactly, Fraser. If any of his loved ones are watching this, make sure you give him some grief for that.
I'll maybe just send Steve Clark a text now then.
Steve. Right, elsewhere, what else is going on today? Celtic. Arne Engels was on the back page of today's Record Sport and Record Sport Online, more or less saying that he is very keen to repay Celtic. He loves it in Scotland, he loves Glasgow, his parents love it here and what have you. But I was just curious to get your guys' take on his first season in Scotland. We got quite a big response to it in the comments section on Record Sport's social media channels. But Arne Engels, Keith, has he lived up to his record-breaking price tag?
No, he's been solid, but not spectacular. Plenty of room for improvement. And I think he'll accept that and acknowledges it himself. He's still a young boy. It's been a season now. He's had his first season, and I think he's been very, very good at times in games. But I think what you're looking for is to bring him on to the next level. For him, Celtic have brought him in, and they've given him the opportunities. We were talking about with Adam Eade. Adam Eade's got an opportunity there to train with these guys, see what the standard is, familiarise yourself with it, and then adapt it and match what these guys are putting into it. And I get the impression with Arne Engels is that he's looking, and he'll be looking at McGregor's and all that. He's in there as the guy in 5 years' time to be taking the same sort of weight on his shoulders as the experienced campaigners just now. That's not to say, because Brendan Rodgers has a habit of fast-tracking these things, it's not to say that next season you don't see a significance a significant difference in terms of consistency levels, because I think that's the key word at Celtic.
Yeah.
It's not just being a good player or having a good game 1 and 3.
It's every week.
It's about every week you've got to be a Callum McGregor, an 8, 9 out of 10. And that can take a little bit of getting used to. I think you'll see a difference in him and an improvement in him next season. But that's not to say that I think he's been poor, because I don't. He's just not been Callum McGregor. And very few are.
I was going to say not many players are. Fraser, before I bring you in it, we've had a lot of comments on this, so let me run through a few of them. Mark says Engels is young in his first season. Next season, with a pre-season under his belt, more experience, he will blossom. Gianni also backs him up, saying maybe he needs a pre-season. Hoopsaholic says his stats are better than O'Reilly's first season and a half. What he's given is someone who can deliver a ball, and we're a threat from set pieces again. And let me just run through a couple more of these. David McCarry says, even if he isn't worth 11 million, if the lad was to move on, I'm sure Celtic would recruit most of that, and he would leave with a championship medal and probably a domestic treble. And this one from John Doonan, some perspective on Engels. Callum McGregor was getting loaned out to Notts County at his age, and he cost €11 million, not £11 million, which is buttons in European football nowadays. The guy he replaced went for nearly 3 times that. He's still a bit raw and inconsistent, still got lots of learning to do, but he's doing well enough to be in the team at the moment. I think that's probably...
I think that's perfectly fair. I mean, and by the way, he does have a lot of learning to do, but what a great school to go to.
Aye.
He's in the right place for learning, with a manager who makes a habit of making players better. But also, I'm telling you now, and I keep coming back to it, and I know we were talking about across the city and Rangers, and I've made this point that I believe that it's crucial for the success. These clubs are so unique, and the environment that they occupy is so unique. I genuinely believe you need standard setters, people who teach others what it's all about here, what's going to be required of you. And Celtic have had that, when you think about it, down through the years, whether it's on the pitch, guys like Scott Brown, Callum McGregor steps up, James Forrest is still there. I mean, you can't look anywhere around Lennoxtown without seeing guys with more bling than...
That have been and done it.
Aye.
Aye. And it's what Rangers have probably lacked.
It's real winners everywhere you look. And these are the guys, the standard setters. And that's the education that guys like Arne Engels will get. That's the real education. How do I make the best of myself? How do I become the most successful Celtic player that I can be? Oh, look, I'll maybe just watch what he's doing over there. I mean, Kieran Tierney did it with Scott Brown. You know, he looked at him, Scott Brown went out, it was snowing, training, short sleeve t-shirt on, Kieran Tierney did the same. These guys are all guys that are to be looked up to and learned from. And you've got a manager who knows everything about everything as well.
Aye.
So he's in a perfect environment to better himself in it. And I think he's got all the tools. You can see, as a gifted, technical football player, the tools are all there. He's got athleticism. He can get around the park.
He's a big boy, aye.
Big boy.
Aye.
So all the attributes are there, and he's just in the perfect place to make the most of that and to learn from the guys all around about him. And I think that's going to be the kind of thing that will really take him on to the next level next season.
The comments weren't all positive though, Fraser. Martin McDonald says Engels and Ida have to the biggest waste of £20+ million in Scottish transfer history. Both were £2-3 million max. Personally, I mean, we've talked about Ida a lot recently, but on Engels, I think Engels has been, anytime I've seen him, he's been really good. He looks like a really decent.
He looks like a work in progress for me.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. But I think there's definitely been games where I've thought he looks like a Rolls Royce. Like, really classy player.
Well, Swanee's a good judge of player, Craig Swan, and he said on his first look at Engels, that was exactly, I think, the words that he used. I've not seen enough from him where I've been wowed by him. I've not been wowed. I've been impressed without being wowed. I expect that the wow might be somewhere in the pipeline.
Aye, fair enough. Fraser, your thoughts on him?
No, it's really hard to disagree with any of what you've said there. It's got the attributes that Keith mentioned, especially that physicality and athleticism that's built for Scottish football. Great. He also has a brilliant grasp of the English language, speaks it fluently, which is massive for a young kid moving over. And he is a young kid. That's the thing. As Keith said, young guy, never going to hit the ground running at 100 miles per hour. But I think he's had enough good games. He's shown enough of the quality he does have to get pass marks for this season. And look, see if he can do enough to get those pass marks, to win a treble, which he probably will, and then to leave room to be better next season. Nothing wrong with that. We just seem to be in such a rush for players to hit top level, but at 21-year-old, for managers to hit the absolute peak of their powers months after joining a club. Sometimes it takes time in football. For Arne Engels, I think he's done enough this season to show why Celtic spent that money on him. I think the second season syndrome can sometimes be a bad thing for players, but at Celtic it seems to be a good thing. I think Nicholas Kuhn, certainly for the majority of this season, is showing that with time he became a better player. And I properly expect the same for Arne Engels next season. And as Keith said, he's got Callum McGregor, Brendan Rodgers, experience through that Celtic team. He probably can't fail to become a better player. And then it just comes down to attitude. And
I think his attitude's good, Fraser.
Aye, absolutely.
From the dealings that I've had to him, I think his attitude's it seems
quite humble.
Yeah.
He'd screwed on.
Yeah,
as my mum says.
Yeah,
no, that's a better way of saying it, Daniel. I like that.
Aye. Thanks, Fraser.
I think he'll be fine.
Aye.
Do you know that the problem he's got, ironically, is that Celtic have gone away a little bit. They've veered off the player trading model by spending big, £11 million, significant money.
Aye.
And I think that's probably, if they'd picked Arne Engels up for £3 million, we're not even having this discussion.
You're spot on, aye. You're right.
That's a brilliant bit of business.
You're right.
So by veering away from their model and splashing more, and the fans want them to do that, so they've splashed more, they've needed to pay that money to get a guy like Engels. As I said to you, if he'd come in at £2 or £3 million, then everybody would be raving about him right now. What a prospect this boy is. 11 million, people are looking going, is he worth 11 million?
Aye.
And he might not yet be worth 11 million. But the room for growth and potential is so vast with this boy that very soon, I think, I'll be surprised if he doesn't look like a player that costs 11 million quid.
He's got a big ceiling, as they say.
Just inflation, lads, isn't it? I mean, 11 million is old 3 million. I mean, even my Mars bar was only 30p a couple of years ago, and now what? Lucky to get change out of quid. Just the way of the world.
Fredo bar's £1.20 now somewhere. Absolutely outrageous.
Away.
Well, something like that. Who knows? We haven't mentioned Rangers yet.
No.
We're getting lots of comments on Rangers in the comment section. Let me throw a couple of these at you.
Continue to talk about confectionery if you fancy.
Look, I had a heavy Easter, guys. If you cut me, I bleed chocolate right now, so we'll move on for that. Mark says he really thinks that Russell Martin will get the Rangers job. And there's a couple of people chiming in saying, Ken here says Gerrard is the answer, sign him up ASAP. And Ken also says, Gerrard can sign tomorrow, he's out of work now. Russell Martin, of course, is being linked with the vacant Leicester City job and Norwich City job, former Norwich player. Gianni says that Gerrard might eye up the Leicester job or Southampton, for example, as a ticket back to the Premiership, his best hope. What do you think? Russell Martin, of course, ex-Rangers player as well.
I think, well, look, I really admire Russell Martin for the style of football that he tried to implement, and it's successfully implemented in the Championship with Southampton. But you're now looking at the worst performing Premier League side in the history of the English Premier League.
Aye.
And I'm afraid Russell Martin built that squad.
He needs to own it, aye.
Yep, they weren't very patient. They panicked. They dismissed him, changed him, brought in somebody with an entirely different philosophy, who was never going to get anything out of that group of players because it was a squad designed to play in the signature style of Russell Martin. But plainly, that didn't work. So if you're saying Rangers need somebody that's qualified to do the job, experienced, and I'm just unsure where the qualifications come from for Russell Martin. He's attached. He's got his name written all over a squad which is the worst performing squad in the history of the English Premier League. I'm not sure that on the back of that you earn yourself a crack at the Rangers job. I think it'd be quite a hard sell for that reason. I do like the football. I do think it's modern, but it was also suicidal. And I can imagine the sort of goals Southampton were losing under Russell Martin at the start of this season. If these goals were to be shipped to Ibrox, there would be absolute carnage.
Bedlam. Fraser, what do you think? Russell Martin, is he a genuine candidate to replace? I'm thinking there, Philip Clement.
Keith stole my point there at the end, man. I could not give a toss about style of football, and Rangers fans couldn't either. It's about winning. Watching that Southampton team try and play out for the back time after time, and as Keith said, some of the goals they conceded.
That was painful stuff, wasn't it, for us?
One game, there was 3 instances where a goalie took a goal kick short to his central defender, and within 2 seconds they'd lost the ball. I think twice it ended in goals. It's just, like, what's the definition of insanity? You know, never have I been attached to Southampton, but I was pulling my hair out watching it. I couldn't believe they kept trying it. So you'd never get away with that at Rangers. Shouldn't get away with it at any club. If you've not got the players to play a style, ditch it and play what your players can play.
They had that style coming up in the promotion campaign, though, Fraser. So
might as well be in a different country.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, I wonder, is Russell Martin's name getting put about because he had 5 minutes at Ibrox?
Do you think that's the case? I mean, at this time last year, he was one of the hottest properties in the Championship.
But I'm hearing, like, former Rangers player and all that.
He played for Rangers for 5 minutes, didn't he?
For 5 minutes, and at a time, what have I been talking about? I've been talking about Rangers need to be restored to the levels that they once used to operate at, which made them competitive and a credible force in their own backyard. Russell Martin's only memories of being a Rangers player were, what was it, Mark Warburton?
Your man, Graham Murray, doing a handstand.
Graham Murray.
Headstand.
So, if that's the standards that you want to try and restore, good luck with that.
He was a decent defender for Scotland, to be fair. I thought he was a good player, but...
No, but I'm saying if he's in the mix, if he's in the conversation because he used to play for Rangers, if that's been seen as a tick in the box for him, well, I would contend that there's a guy that's currently in the job on an interim basis that's probably not going to get it. But in terms of ticking the boxes as a Rangers player, he ticks significantly more than Russell Martin did in his short time.
I just wonder if being a Rangers man has now become a kind of a drawback for potential candidates. We've had how many Rangers men through that door in the last 3 or 4 years, and they've all failed. So I don't know. I don't think that's what they're needing. Not another one. But Russell Martin would be too much a risk for me. Too young.
Was Big fella, big Rangers man?
No. The entire current interim management team, before him, Alec Ray, talking about members of the management team.
I take your point.
I think that's a fair point. It seems to work as easily as that football management.
Mark in the comment section says, Keith, do you think Ferguson would be better as a director of football? Which, I mean... No. No? Okay. No. Cheers, Mark.
Look, Barry Ferguson, as I said, I've said this now for a couple of days, he doesn't believe that he's in contention for this job, right? So let's give him that, because we're all talking about it. So he doesn't believe he's going to be in the running for it, and he simply just wants to enjoy what's left of this period, and he'll remember it for the rest of his life as the period when he was actually managing Glasgow Rangers, and that's a great memory for him. I'm making a point that I think it might be a bit of a mistake to completely dismiss him or overlook him, because I think there's so many qualities that he brings to the table that Rangers could benefit from. But what I would say is I'm not sure that he would want to step away from the coalface, in terms of a director of football. I think he sees himself. I think he believes in his own head that, and with some justification, that he knows exactly what he needs to do to this group of players in order to make them competitive and functional. Mm-hmm. And I think he's worked that out in his own head, what he would do, where to be given a shot at it. I think he knows exactly what he would do. And I think that's what he would want. I think that he would feel that's the job, and you couldn't do that as easily and have a hands-on sort of approach to it if you're sitting in the director's box.
Yeah. I put up there was a picture there that just came up, Hoopsaholic saying if Nils Koppen is buying the players, it doesn't matter if Pep gets the job.
I've said that. I mean, that's the very point we were making about the recruitment. If it's true, and I think if you speak to any Celtic manager, any Rangers manager, that they all tell you the same things. It's not just about having ability to make it in this city with these two clubs. You need to have something else. There needs to be something else in your DNA, something else in your character that makes you able to fill the jersey properly.
Yeah.
And if Niels Coppin, if you don't know what that is, if you get no idea, you've just kind of, as Niels Coppin, he's come in from nowhere. Does he know what he's actually looking for? Does he know what that quality looks like in a person? Because it's such a crucial point. And I think Rangers have signed there's been some talented players that have come and gone and done not very much. And there's plenty of them there that have cost a few quid. But if you've not got a filter on this, and you don't know what it is that exactly that is required and what you're looking for in someone's personality traits, you've got no chance. And you're going to end up buying player after player who simply isn't suited to the job that you're asking them to do. And that's where Rangers are. So I think what I'm actually told is that Rangers are really close now to appointing a sporting director. Really close. I think they know who it is they want.
But sorry to jump in, Keith, but so who is appointing them then? Is that the current?
I think Patrick Stewart is in charge of this one,
right.
Chief Exec. So I think they've got their guy, and I think it'll be announced sooner rather than later, and that's going to be fascinating to see who it is and his sort of beliefs and his views and his philosophies and what he thinks first and foremost about the guy that's currently sitting in the dugout. Because if he fancies Barry Ferguson, well, who knows?
Aye.
So there's a whole load of imponderables, but I think that'll be the first thing that happens. I think the Rangers fans can expect an appointment in that position very soon. And again, that kind of moves Niels Coppin a little bit further out of the equation, doesn't it? He goes back to doing whatever it is that he's been doing. I think if Rangers were serious about it, they'd need to take a look at his handiwork, they'll assess it and say, I'm not sure that we really need you in charge anywhere near the recruitment side of the club.
So far, has it? Just a final one in Rangers. Rangers is okay. I would love Knutson from Bodo Glimt, but I don't know how probable that is with him being in the European semi-finals. Reckon loads of teams across the continent would be looking at him. He would be a good appointment for anyone, it would look like, but who knows? Fraser, I know we talk about Scottish football, but I wanted to pick your brains on Ange Postecoglou.
That's a good segue. Good segue. No, it is because this is a guy Knudsen has his own philosophy, and it's very specific, and it's he's designed it himself.
He's been there a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, but this is what I'm interested in. Ange Postecoglou. We all know what Ange Postecoglou's style looks like, and has he been able to implement that? Has it worked for him down south? Are there certain environments in which a manager with a really clearly defined strategy and playing style where it works in some places and can't work in other places? Because I think Ange Postecoglou, his first 6 months, brilliant to watch. Spurs were flying.
The Spurs fans, we've got a Spurs back.
It was basically Celtic in a Spurs strip, except with a higher level of player individual within the system that we all became so familiar with when he was up here. I look at Spurs now, they're not even a pale imitation of that. I don't think the players are playing for him. And I wonder about that. It makes me wonder about a guy like Knudsen, for example. Has Ange Postecoglou arrived in the Premier League 10 years too late? 10 years ago, would he have been able to take these players with them? And he is an authoritarian, and he does start put his foot down and state very clearly what's expected, what the demands are. I think there are a bunch of players in now. When I look at Spurs, I see a group of players that have chucked it, no interest in playing for him.
No, I agree.
And so, can you be that abrasive these days? I listened to something with Joe Hart on the radio last night saying, things have changed from 25 years ago. If players, have issues with childcare and such matters, they have to go and raise it with the manager. And a minute, much am I paying you, mate?
I was going to say, is that not why you get paid 50, 60, 100 grand a week?
So, sorry, Fraz, I've went off in one there, but that was that's what I was wondering about, and I knew that you were going to bring that up with Fraser.
Oh, this is off the back, Fraser, of the fact that the Telegraph have put a story out today saying that whether he wins the Europa League or not, Ange is on his way out at Tottenham. 18 league defeats from 33 games, which in anyone's book is a crazy ratio. But are you surprised it's not worked out, Fraser, from down south, or?
Well, look, first and foremost, they're sitting below Manchester United in the Premier League, which says everything, doesn't it? They've just had a disaster of a season. Is it 5 defeats for the last 7 now that they're kind of in free fall?
They've chucked it. They've totally chucked it.
Well, that's an indictment of players, if nothing else is.
That's what I think.
Yeah, But Ange Postecoglou was always criticised for sticking to his principles, only having one way of playing. I do feel that will always find you out in the English Premier League. Especially, he did suffer a chronic injury problem kind of just after the start of the season, didn't he? Maybe the second quarter of the season. You've got to find a way to just knuckle down and be hard to beat. But that's not in his DNA. It's not in his team's DNA. So I think they've paid the price for that. Some of the games earlier in the season where they were in the right good position, but then couldn't see it out just simply because of the way they kept attacking. I don't know. I think kind of the breakdown between him and the fans is irreparable, I would say. Even if they do go on and win the Europa League, and to be fair, although I think Bilbao are rightly still favourites to go on and win it, it's a pretty poor semi-final lineup, isn't it? How do you get Manchester United and Spurs with the season they're having in the last four of a European competition? It's just, it's not a good look for that tournament at all. It's really poor. Fair play to Bodo Glimt. I mean, Knutson beat Postecoglou, didn't he?
Oh, did I? Was when he was at Bodo Glimt played Celtic, I
that was Ange's team, wasn't it? That was Ange's team. And they've continually come up with these incredible results. I mean, Jose Mourinho is down to Jose Mourinho. To get to the semi-final now, fair play to them. So I think he was also linked. He's been linked with a few jobs that have been going in Scotland down the years, hasn't he? But he seems to be in with the bricks.
But how Spursy is this? That this is a club that cannot win silverware. They've brought in every outrageously priced manager from across Europe. All the big hitters they've had. They can't win a thing. They can't get near silverware. Ange Postecoglou could just end all that, put a big trophy right in the cabinet, and then get sacked the next day.
It's something like one trophy in 50 years or something.
It defies. But do you know something? It probably fits in with the general chaos around Spurs and Postecoglou. That's probably the way this story ends. That Ange Postecoglou ends this trophy drought, gets one of the most sought-after pieces of silverware anywhere in Europe, puts it on the table, and then see you later, mate.
John points out.
I think it might happen as well, Keith. But
I think so.
I think that might be exactly how it pans out. Where would they go then? Where would they go then? What would be the next stop for Ange Postecoglou?
Rangers are looking for a new manager, aren't they? That'd be good.
But this is the thing, Fraser. I'm looking at it going, because people will say he'll get another crack at a decent level Premier League club. I'm not sure, because if we all know what football's like, we all know that people talk. If it's starting to come out from behind the scenes at Spurs that the players just can't have him, not having him, won't play for him, and you know something, and I'm going to throw this one into the mix. I wonder if, Fraser referred to the amount of injuries that Spurs had. I think if you look back at Celtic, the amount of hamstring injuries that Celtic players had was quite incredible. I think it's all to do with the way that he trains them and plays them.
Style of play.
And I don't think your young generation of Premier League football players who've already got all the trappings and the Gucci Man bags and the Ferraris and Lamborghinis, do they really want? He's just done me in again. I've just pulled my hamstring. I'll be another 5 months out now because of this guy.
Aye.
And I wonder if a little bit of that has helped to feed into the whole narrative, which has become absolutely toxic. And I think you only usually arrive at a place like that when the dressing room has gone and the players just aren't having him and won't respond to him.
No, it looked like that last night against Forest.
I've seen it now for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've been watching Spurs when I can. They're nowhere. They're not even a shadow, a pale imitation of the Ange Postecoglou sides that we've come accustomed to, and they're just not doing all the Ange Postecoglou things anymore. They don't look, but they've got Bodo Glimt to get past, and they're in a European final.
They've still got some good players.
Yeah, there's a chance they could be playing Manchester United in that final. This Manchester United,
who they've beat home and away this season.
Yeah.
Aye.
And in that one-off game environment with the trophies on the line, I can see it developing. You can just see sometimes football's got its own storylines that are almost too difficult to make up, but you feel that this is moving towards what destiny looks like for Ange Postecoglou and Spurs. A trophy and a divorce.
Gianni says in the comments, Ange, if he wins the Europa League, then his post-match press conference, just do a mic drop and leave. Nobody else at Spurs will eclipse it. Aye, I think that would be a great way to end his tenure in North London, and a great way for us to end today's show, guys. Ken's been in touch. He says this is a great channel. First time on subbed. First time subbed on. Ken, man of the match today. Well done, Ken.
First time what?
First time he's subbed on to the channel.
Subbed on?
Subbed on, aye. It's a wee bit of
I'm not sure that's what he means. I think he's having a dig there.
Oh, really? Right, well, Ken, take that back.
What does he mean subbed on?
He says, first
He said
time
on
on subbed. I thought he meant subscribed.
Well, welcome.
Cheers, Ken. Aye.
Thanks, Ken.
It was meant to be a nice wee moment to end it.
No,
but
that
it was-
is nice.
Aye, that is nice, isn't it? Aye. But just in case...
Fraser, you've turned this all a bit awkward.
Yeah, I didn't ken what Ken means. Ken.
There you go, look, he's come back, subscribed. There you go, see.
All right.
Well
just
played, Ken.
Aye, sorry about that, Ken. Fraser...
Well done.
that's just,
Sorry, just ignore Fraser.
aye, just... that's it.
I'm not down with the kids these days.
I think that on that note, that brings to the end of Tuesday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you very much for all of your comments as ever. We really appreciate it. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Fraser, it's always a pleasure.
Yes.
Keith, it's always a pleasure as well.
Up the road. Up the road.
Thanks for watching at home. Cheers.
Thank you.